And we welcome you back into Priority Talk Radio here on Truth 101 WXJC. And we are always thrilled to visit with Andy Erwin, now known as Andrew Erwin, but in Birmingham, we know him as Andy. All right. So, Andy, always good to see you, my friend, and visit with you. How are things now in Nashville for the folks that, maybe you're catching up? You guys took the operations of making the movies to Nashville. How are things?
Well, we still try to make as much in Alabama as we can. And man, I tell you what, anytime I hear your voice, it makes me feel at home because I remember driving around Birmingham listening to your show and you've been a long time friend. So you can feel free to keep calling me Andy.
All right. Well, we will do it. We will do it. Well, very excited. Hey, and I did get to visit your headquarters, Kingdom Studio up in Nashville. I was with your dad, brought us by.
Yeah.
You were not there that day, but I did get to tour around, and man, just wonderful, beautiful, and to see all the movies you guys have made, all the posters on the wall, and it was just really inspiring to remember October Baby, that first one, I guess, and first
Yeah.
full length movie. And remember having you guys here in the building for that, and all the ones since then. And you guys just keep doing it. So we've got White Bird coming out now,
Yeah.
October the 4th, be a national release in theaters. As all, I did get to see it and thought it was just absolutely wonderful. Tell us how you guys got interested in this story, because it's kind of a prequel sequel to a previous movie. To set it up for everybody.
Yeah, Greg, for us, Lionsgate, our parent company has really just let us kind of expand things out. So this is the third of four films that we have coming out this year. And it just speaks to the power of the audience. And they've just really valued the faith audience. And so, what started there with October Baby, like you said, in those humble beginnings, we just try to kind of keep rolling it forward and just can't believe they let us keep telling stories for a living. That, the Whitebird story came to us. I remember about 6 years ago, there was a movie in theaters through Lionsgate called Wonder. And so it was, it starred Julia Roberts and Owen Wilson. And I remember when I saw that in the theater, I just was floored by just this beautiful story about the power of kindness. And I just like, if there was ever a chance to be involved in a movie like that, I would take it in a heartbeat. And fast forward, years later, and I didn't realize that they were already working on, like you said, a spinoff, a prequel sequel. And basically the story of this one follows the bully character from the first film, Julian, and he's been expelled from school and he goes home and he's coping with it and he's kind of feeling sorry for himself. And his grandmother makes a surprise visit from France, and it's played by Oscar winner Helen Mirren, who is just
Yeah,
a
she was
delight.
wonderful. Yeah, yeah.
She's amazing. And so she says, Julian, you don't know the history of your name. And she sits down to tell him her story when she was a little Jewish girl in German occupied France during World War II, during the Holocaust. And she tells the story of a little boy who puts his life on the line to save her. And just there's a line that she says towards the end of the movie where she says, when an act of kindness can cost you your life, it becomes somewhat of a miracle. And I just like, oh my gosh, it just illustrates the power of who is my neighbor, the kind of the Good Samaritan story on a whole nother level. And so it just was so poignant to, world events and all sorts of things that we just like, as Christians, how could we not be involved in that? So we kind
Yeah.
of stepped in to help with the movie. And man, I'm so proud to be associated with it.
Well, it's beautiful. The message is great. Definitely very, Christian gospel themed all throughout the movie. No doubt about that. Now you've got this Nazi occupied France is a
Yeah.
big part of this. So talk to me about shooting a movie about Nazi occupied France and just the whole, what goes into that. Where did you shoot it at? And I mean, it was done wonderfully. It took me, it was like a time period movie, really.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, the thing about it, it's shot in several locations, but like the thing about it is Mark Forster is the director, and Mark Forster is a master storyteller. So he's a guy that any day, if there was a chance to be his intern and get coffee for him, I would take that job in a heartbeat. And so Mark, Oscar nominated director, and has directed some of my favorite films like Finding Neverland and Christopher Robin, A Man Called Otto, and so many others. And so when he signed on to direct it, it was amazing to see just the movie magic and how he brought it to life. The most interesting thing for me, though, is uh, Mark is Swiss German, but his family is from Germany. For him as a director to tell this story from the Jewish perspective was really just interesting. And it kind of really reminded me of the days of when we directed Woodlawn, and just trying to enter the story through the eyes of characters like Tony Nathan, and trying to understand and empathize, having lived a different experience, in Birmingham. Uh, and so I think he just brought this really interesting nuance to the storytelling and really brought it to life. And like you said, artistically, like you believe that you're in, a period piece in France back in World War II, and it's a gorgeous piece of cinema, and Helen Mirren kills it.
Well, she did, and well, everybody did, but yeah, I'm not as familiar with everybody as you are. I didn't really, when I saw it, I didn't really know who all she is, what she's done. I
Yeah,
found out later, and I went, oh, okay, that explains a lot. She's quite
yeah,
accomplished, and just does a beautiful role, and the movie really will leave you choked up and just leave you challenged, and just going, my
right.
goodness, I need to start living in a way that I don't take things for granted, and that we treat people the right way. But I think you're going to find a great audience just because it's part of these Wonder Tales, and people remember the 18 movie Wonder,
Yeah,
and people are going to have such familiarity with it that
yep,
this is going to draw them in. So I think it's a wonderful thing. So October 4th, and we want to challenge people to get out and see this one as well. There's quite a few really great films in
yeah,
theaters this fall. You guys have a couple of them. Of course, the Kendricks have had theirs. The Reagan movie is out. So I mean,
yep,
there's a lot of great opportunities to get to the theaters this fall, and then so we really hope people will, and you guys as well. Let me just mention it quickly because you've got the best Christmas pageant ever
yeah,
coming out in November, and
yep.
this is sort of a retelling of the book from the early '70s. I think the movie, I guess, was made in the '80s, and you guys have remade this, and it's a Christmas film.
It is. It's the best. It's the best Christmas film that I've seen since Elf. Like it is. It's a classic. And so Dallas Jenkins, that directed The Chosen, had read that book to his kids every Christmas for the past, 17 years, and had chased it as a passion project that he wanted to retell it. And so when he finally got the rights, he brought it to us in the Lionsgate, and we did it together. So we got a chance to produce it for Dallas, uh, and it is just full of so much heart and charm that takes place in this. For those that haven't read the book, they take place in this fictional town of Emmanuel, where they have a Christmas pageant that has not changed for 75 years.
Yeah.
And the bad kids in town, the herdman kids that are kind of feral, get thrown into this play to play all the parts. And what they think is going to destroy and burn it to the ground ends up helping everybody recapture Christmas. And it's fantastic. I'm so proud
Yeah,
of it.
I
That'll be
haven't read the
in
book.
November.
I
Yeah,
hadn't read the book. I was familiar with the movie. I don't know if I'd ever seen it all the way through, but it's one of those movies you just kind of see around Christmas time. And my wife was quite excited about it. She was real familiar with it, but I
yeah,
did watch the movie the other night, and it was hilarious and touching and all of those things at the same time. So we just want to get that on people's radar. A family friendly, absolutely Christmas film this year
yep,
coming out in early November. So
yep,
Whitebird, early October, Christmas pageant ever, early November. And let's highlight as well, you've got the podcast going now, Storytellers, and
yeah.
you're talking to quite a list of folks on there, and really really good. I've listened a few times.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. It allowed me to kind of get back to my Hank Erwin roots.
There you go.
I grew up, not too far from where y'all's studio is now, at the old location for
Yep.
DJC. I used to
Yep.
grow up sitting behind the glass of the studio by the engineer while my dad was on the radio, and I'd be doing my baseball cards. I sat next to
Yeah.
Lavert Ag as the
Yeah.
engineer, and we would sit there, and I would just listen to my dad do talk radio. So when we started talking about, like, let's have a conversation that allows the audience to have like a window into the people that we get to interact with, we were just like, we're not super interesting, but we a lot of our friends are, and so we just started inviting friends. So we finished season one earlier this year. Season two just started this past Tuesday. Gary Sinise was my guest Tuesday. This next week is Zachary Levi, who I have on the wall behind me as Kurt Warner, and then we've got Dallas Jenkins, Hilary Swank. We've got a lot of other people that have been in our films over the years. So it just allows people to have a conversation and understand the storytellers that we love and the stories that inspired them. And it's an hour-long podcast. It's out everywhere podcasts are consumed.
Yeah, and I've got it saved now, so I'm tracking with you and following. I just found it
Cool.
recently, so I'm tracking with you now. And look, if you have Sarah Drew on, just
Yeah.
please send my apologies for the Mom's Not Out scene that me and my family completely stole. Sitting there at First Baptist Pelham right beside her. You guys came in and you shot the scene right beside us, and I know we overshadowed Sarah Drew and Andrea Logan White and the whole team there, but anyway, so just send
Yeah.
our apologies along.
Yeah, I think it overshadowed you because you kind of have my challenge of reflecting light with a bald head.
Yeah, they
So I
came
think
by.
it was just
They
by
patted
natural
down my
sheer
head a couple of
presence.
times. They patted me down quite a few times. Andy Erwin, our guest, and okay, it's Whitebird October 4th, and then of course the best Christmas pageant ever in November, early November. And you want to check out Storytellers, his podcast as well. And so I communicate with your dad pretty regular, and your mom
Yeah,
doing well.
they are still causing trouble, and my dad's always got some new thing
Well, he's
to
got the
go
Great
change the
American
world.
Prayer Night.
It's amazing. He's going to do his Great American Prayer Night
Yeah,
that
we're
he is
working on it.
champion. It's pretty amazing. He's always got some new thing that just to change the world, and 9 times out of 10 he figures out a way to do it. So I never bet against Hank Erwin.
Absolutely. And let me back up. You were talking about the old WDJC building where you were, when you were a
Yeah.
child in there. Believe it or not, a couple of weeks ago, I had a meeting and they told me where to come, and it was in that building.
No.
Yeah. So I went in there and I was like, oh, wow. Now they've moved things around a little bit, but you can definitely remember the vibe there from the building there in downtown Homewood. So it was really cool to be in there.
That's my childhood.
Again. Yeah, it
Love it.
was. Well, Andy, always good. Tell your brother and everybody we said hello, and y'all keep up the good work, and always glad to highlight anything you guys are doing. So thank you so much, man. God bless you.
You're the man, Greg. Appreciate you, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy.